Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that's on the board there.
Okay. So, all right. First off, I wanted to mention that, writing is very different to everybody. It's kind of like a fingerprint. Everybody has a different way to look at it and study it. So, there's different methods to approach writing, and what might work for one writer might not always work for another. So the best way to approach writing when you're trying to learn it or trying to create your own style, your own method, is just to try everything. Try everything, and to, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, maybe look at adapting that method to work for you, or combining it with another one. So, okay. So let's get started. Today, on this workshop, I want to focus on characters. Does anyone have a particular way they like to create characters at the moment? Not really. They just come to you. What about character sheets? Has anybody tried to fill out something like this for their characters? Yes. Do you have trouble? Do you find yourself having trouble? Lots of trouble?
In the beginning, yeah, it's really hard to define all that stuff and then to get it
all into one place.
all into one place. I usually wind up coming back and adding things, as I progress through.
Yeah, that's great.
I kind of do it as I go along.
Mm-hmm.
This character needs another angle. So.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, to kind of piece it together as you go. So what I wanted to talk about was filling out one of these. I recently read an article online, and I'll post a link within the video or on the notes. And it was called Character Sheets as a Teaching Tool. But really what it was telling you, or trying to show, was, well, let me go to the quote. The quote was so much better. But character sheets are often misconstrued as a list to fill from top to bottom. You feel like you have to have the name, the age. You have to have you feel like you have to have everything in order to start with one. But nothing could be further from the truth. It's not really so much filling in the blanks as the interconnections between them. And so, how to get between the two blanks, the interconnections, what questions do you have to ask between those two? So I wanted to start with one of my own characters. I'm going to show you how I created him. He's one of my favorite characters. And then we can look at maybe creating one from scratch. So, character's name, and I came up with this later afterwards. His name is Remington. I'm going to call him Remy for short. So, and for my series, it's a fantasy. It's an urban fantasy. I know for this character, he's going to be a side character. I needed to have a magic user, someone who could cast spells, be a resource of knowledge for my main characters. So I started with that. So there's two questions I can ask from this. Where does he get his power? And how much power does he have, pretty much. So for where he got his power, I figured it would just be kind of cool to have it kind of run in the family, So it's kind of like a family thing. Everybody in his family has some sort of power. As to how much power he has, I looked at the needs of my main character. I know for my main character to face his upcoming battles and whatnot, that he would need to be exceptionally powerful. wanted to ask, well, how does his family feel about him being really powerful? I kind of figured, maybe it's rare in his family to have so much power. So I was thinking they feel kind of jealous about it. So which in turn would lead to, maybe snide remarks, maybe them trying to obtain his power or control him to be able to use his power. So, sorry about my handwriting, it's horrible. Attacks, they're trying to control him. So now I wanted to ask, how would Remy feel about his family, his own flesh and blood, trying to control him, trying to attack him, trying to even kill him for his power? And for that, it's kind of distrustful of them. Let's try that again. Maybe he fears them. Maybe even a little bit of resentment. Okay. So this is a really great start. I know he's a magic user. He has, he gets his power from his family, and that he's exceptionally powerful. But his family feels jealous of his exceptional power. There's been attacks made on him from them trying to control his power, and it leads to him being distrustful of his family. So with this, you can kind of see where his background is kind of starting to form. You can, with this type of skeleton, you can fill in the blanks as you're writing, just to kind of, all the little details and whatnot. So this is really a good starting point for the background. So let's, so now I wanted to move on to maybe his age. How old is he? Well, since I know he's going to be helping my main character, and that my main character is a teenager, I want the main character to be able to relate to Remy. Remy also needs to be a teenager. So, and to throw in a little bit of not necessarily contrast, but conflict, and to create a bigger subplot, I'm going to make him really young. I want to make him 16. Now, how do you think a 16-year-old is going to deal with this type of background?
Poorly.
Poorly, yes. Very poorly. Maybe he acts out, or maybe he's even mentally a little older from all the responsibility that's been forced onto him from his family. So, maybe he acts out. That's a little bit. Because of so, and maybe, and because, he's 16-year-old, and he's being attacked by his family. They want to control him. Overall, I felt it would lead to him running away from home. Makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. So, away from home. I can't write.
So they're attacking him for a specific
Reason.
not just because he's 16,
Not
because if
just-
you ask any 16-year-old,
Mhm.
they're going to say that they're attacked and controlled
Right.
by their family and they want to run away.
Exactly. But I mean, it's also. I mean,
So
there's-
it's an amplification.
Yeah, it kind of forces more onto the situation. So, which, I mean, but this is a key part right here for my story, because that will lead him to meet the main characters. So, and it also adds more, 'cause, I mean, I think every 16-year-old would want, kind of wants to run away from home at one point or another. But which of them do? Which of them find the strength to actually do it?
Stupidity.
Yes, exactly. So, but they would come back eventually, right? Or they're found.
As soon as the laundry was dirty.
Yeah, exactly. So the attacks and control kind of give him more reason not to go back, more to make it work, leaving away, So, so with this, we've got more of his personality worked out. We know he acts out, and he runs away from home. He might be a mentally older because of the responsibility he's been forced, that has been forced on him. So now we can kind of go back to the character sheet and kind of start filling things out. We have his name, we know it's a guy, we know his age, he's 16. Hair color, he acts out, he's a teenager, he's probably going to be dyed some sort of color, probably a little wild. Eye color, you can kind of just decide what you want. Height, age, skin color again. Occupation, we know he's a magic user. So, physical description, yes.
In your characters, are you going to go different than other characters? In other words, if your main character has brown eyes and blonde hair, are you going to go blue and brown? Are you going to go with another nationality?
I might go with another nationality, because I know Remington and his family, when I decide all the details, are going to be from England and London. So maybe blonde hair, blue-eyed, whereas my main characters are dark hair, brown-eyed. So it does make sense to stand it out. You want to differentiate your different characters, because once all your characters start looking the same, it's harder for the reader to, tell the difference between them, distinguish them, yes. So that worked. And another point to that is names. Names are very important. At first, Remy's name was Scott, but I also have Sam, a Seth. Once you have too many names starting with the same letter, it's hard for characters to remember which one's which. So, and that works. It works the same way. So, yeah, and so with physical description, he's going to be a high schooler, maybe end of middle school. Same way with his height, skin. That's kind of what you figure out when you decide nationality or the family. His personality. I kind of pictured him being a little shy. Definitely distrustful of other people. So it's hard for him to be able to trust other people. But once he's able to trust someone, I think he's fiercely loyal. He doesn't want to lose them, because they're very important to him. So there's his moral code. Flaws. These right here are flaws. He's distrustful, fear, the resentment of his family, secrets. He could have things that have happened in his past from his family attacking him that he wants to keep secret and not want to share with other people. The Roland story, he's a side character, so easily, that's something you determine. Key traits. He's shy. It kind of works out. It's easy to start filling things out once you have the basics down. So, do you have any questions? I kind of went through that a little fast.
So as far as you've got the things that are story related that are affecting him, but also regular 16-year-old stuff.
Yeah. You have to take age into account. The normal, even if you're not writing a fantasy, like I'm doing with the magic and the family reasons, there's always going to be some sort of story behind a family.
Right.
And hidden secrets, that type of thing. So you definitely want to keep
High school on top of anything.
Yeah, that's true. So, but yeah, you definitely want to take age into account and the normal fears, what you would normally have to deal with in real life into account. So, but if you want, we can go ahead and maybe create one from scratch. We can try that. Do you have another question? Or?
So I have maybe a transition question.
Okay.
How do you know that when you're creating a character like this, that the character is dense enough, or maybe even too dense? Is there such a thing?
I don't think there is such a thing of having too dense a character. It's how you would reflect that on the paper. So with a side character like this, you might not see too much of his background unless it comes up in a subplot. But it's nice, and you need to know where he comes from in order to find his motivation, how he's going to react in a certain situation. Because of Remy's distrustful of family, he's probably going to find a hard time trusting the main character. And getting, the main character is going to have a hard time getting him to trust him for what he needs to do.
So when you write your series, you know what you said at the beginning about that character.
That's the great thing about character sheets. Once you start doing this type of flow outline, and you know what your characters, where your characters are coming from, you might not need to fill out a character sheet. You can just refer back to either your flow or just in your mind to know what motivation your character has for doing something. However, if you're writing a series, a trilogy, or a longer series of works, filling out a character sheet to keep on hand, to refer back to, is a really big help. It helps you keep the consistency and not having any errors in like a character's past or whatnot. So.
So here's where you'd put if he's conscientious or not. If he blows his homework off.
Or if he does it.
Dude, I can't come to the seance, I got homework.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of, that's where you kind of keep that in mind and be able to refer back to it for the pieces if you want.
How would you describe moral code?
Moral code, loyalty, I would think, whether or not he's going to be the ultimate bad guy and go off the deep end, or if he's going to, stick by his friends, even if it puts him in a bad situation. That type of loyalty. Yeah.
At this point, it could be either way. Right?
It could
be a psychopath, or it could be, seriously.
Yeah.
If my family tried to kill me, it's probably, there's a crucial point, right, where you decide, are you going to be a psychopath, or
are you going to try?
If you can decide such things, right?
Yeah.
Or are you going to look for, people to fill in where you feel like they should be?
Yeah.
You should have,
Exactly. And actually what Remy does is he finds an alternative father figure after he runs away from home. And that helps lead into the main character. And that helps also put him on the right track, so he doesn't go off the deep end and start killing everybody. He actually starts, the father figure kind of puts him on the right path again. So, yeah.
Very
Yeah. So, does it make sense? I think that was my biggest fear. It wouldn't make sense. Okay. So, usually characters, when you start off with the character, you have some sort of idea, whether it's, for me, like I know I needed a magic user. You know, some people may start with a name or an age, or maybe it's a job. What are some of the things that you come up with when you know you need to create a character? What do you start with?
I have an issue with the details. That's my problem. Like name, I always get hung up on the name. I get writing in the story, and then I say I don't like this name. Is it going to flow well? Is it going to work? Or his age?
I do.
And I just keep going back to that and back, so I get stuck.
Yeah, I do that too with some names. And what do you do?
I Google. I Google, somebody's from Europe, I Google popular European cities, popular smaller European cities, popular boys' names, popular girls' names.
I have a list of popular last surnames here in the States to
Right.
keep to reference to.
You can't name everybody Johnson.
When you say cities, what do you mean by that? You name them after the cities, or you just
The geography, I
Whatever.
guess, where they are,
Where they're from.
or
Where they're from, I'm from a
And what's
small town in
popular in that
Romania,
area?
you know.
Popular names in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also popular girls' names, popular boys' names, what's
Well, I
popular
Googled them,
now,
you know,
what was
but
popular
I never
then.
find anything I like. It's always
It's
just,
hard.
What I do.
And also, you gotta remember the time. If you're talking about your great-grandmother, she might have been a Myrtle,
right.
but not likely today she'll be a Taylor.
Yeah.
For another thing, if I have a real hard time finding a name, I'll just plug a name in there and keep on going with my
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, I'll do
Otherwise,
that,
I'll just stop
or-
and forget where I'm going.
Actually, in another one I did last year for Nano, I was trying to find names for horses, and I couldn't find one that I liked. It was in a fantasy, so I was going to have to make something up anyway. But I ended up writing, like,
tagging.
Blue-Eyed One
Mhm.
for one horse, in brackets, and then a brown-eyed one, and another one, just to distinguish them until. So I would plug something like this in where the name should go. And I would usually write these in all caps when I do that. So then when I'm going back through the manuscript, it's easier to find. And you can do that with any type of name, or, you can do, side character 1 or girl number 1 or, Jane, don't like this name, change it later.
And
I
then
always
you
use
find your
comments
place.
too. If I'm in Word or Pages, I use comments. I'm writing historical fiction, so I have a gazillion comments everywhere because I don't know if I'm saying is something that happened in the 1860s. So I just always put a comment, and I've got a ton of those.
Yeah, that also works in Google Documents to put a comment on there. So yeah, the comments work. There's different ways to look at it. I know some people who would highlight it or make it all red or something like that. So there's different ways to try and do that.
I like this way because it's fast.
It is fast.
Because most of the time you're typing slower than you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to stop and
Right.
I need to highlight this and color it a different.
Yeah, because once you start doing that, you kind of get distracted and
Yeah.
get away
Plus,
from
with this,
it.
you can easily find and replace when you decide what
Right.
that name's going to
Yep.
be.
Yeah, that too. So, okay. So if we want to create a new character from scratch, what do we want to start with? Do we want to start with age or?
You can essentially start with anything though, right?
Yes, you can. And I think that's what makes doing examples so hard.
I started with personality at one point. I had no idea who it was going to be or what the name was going to be. It's just I needed somebody who acts like this.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
great. That's
Yeah.
another way to do it.
One of my
Yeah.
most colorful characters was, okay, I need somebody who's, an older person who lives in the woods and has a sign, help me, I'm broke. As a sign worker, and is absolutely crazy, and a woman.
Yeah.
And I went from there, and turned out to be one of my most colorful characters.
Somebody who was semi-insane and also into dark magic.
Nice.
Right.
Not that those two always go together.
Right,
They
good
did
news
this
is they do
character.
magic, bad news is they're crazy.
So, let's pick something. Do we want
First age.
an
That's
age? Okay, let's start with age. Do we want a older age, younger, middle-aged? What should we do?
Is this a side character?
This could be any character. So this is just going to be an example. So do we want it to be a side character, or do we want it to be like a main character?
Let's do a main character. Since
Main
you do side character.
Okay, we can do that. So,
Main character, then you want to go young.
well, there are some books out there that have older protagonists.
Yeah, but the bestsellers are young.
Okay, how young? Do we want like young adult young, or it's another teenager, or mid-20s? 24? Okay. Okay, so they're 24. Is it, I guess the next question, is it a girl or a guy? A guy? Okay. So we know it's a guy. Oops. Okay. I'm not gonna worry about it. Let's see. So we've got a guy who's 24. What does he do? Is he in college? Does he work full time? Does he live in his parents' basement?
So are we making the assumption that it's current time, it's current place?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's you know, this is expanding out on the character, but maybe if a 2-word tag for the setting, or
We could do that, yeah. Because I mean, 24.
just because it puts it in the context.
It would put it
Well,
in.
24 is different a century ago.
Yes, exactly. That's middle age. Yes.
The only thing that jumps out at me is we talked about all these but personal quirks, and I want this character to have one eye that blinks a lot slower than the other eye, so people mistake and think that what is it? Is he crazy? Is he or is he
Okay.
retarded or
Sounds
what
like
is it?
work.
And he's really a smart guy, but that's all I could think of is that personal quirk. One eye closes really slowly when he's blinking.
Let's make him a law clerk.
A law clerk. So that would put him in recent times then.
That would make it modern.
Modern, yes.
Let's make it law clerk in Durham.
Okay. Closes slower than the other.
That's pretty random. Do you know someone that's like that?
No, I looked at the page and that's all I could think of. All those things I looked at.
Which puts him in all kinds of positions to discover information that would lead him to an adventure.
Exactly. So we could go into a mystery, a thriller, some detective story even.
I think that's good. As a side thing, because like he unsettles people because they don't know where to look when they're looking him in the eye because one eye blinks slower than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, real.
So yeah, normal, I
Make
guess.
assumptions about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So with this, we know we can ask then, well, how does he feel about something like this?
He's a law clerk. He's got a quirk. He's shy. He's shy and he's reserved.
All right, yeah.
I bet he's tall and he hunches.
That makes sense, yeah. Okay, so shy and reserved. He's tall. Hunches over, try to make himself look not as tall.
He's been bullied, but since he got tall and everything, he fleshed out, so he's not bullied anymore.
Yeah. So that's a good backstory.
That appeals to me.
Yeah.
But he does because he's shy, so he hunches over to kind of keep make himself smaller. I think, like you said.
To kind of blend in.
Yeah.
Well, he probably feels ostracized too because, he's got this one quirk that people look away from because they can't, I mean, that's just human nature,
Yeah,
You
just
don't
to kind
want
of
to
stare.
upset them or stare or something. So-
Yeah. And plus, adding this to being tall, that just makes it even worse.
Right.
And in his profession, he's smart, but people continue to think he's dumb even though you know he's in law school
School.
or whatever. You just don't, is he affirmative action or what? You know.
Right.
Well, they probably too wouldn't take the time to get to know him either, you know?
Oh,
Exactly, because he's just a clerk.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So he's, shy, reserved. He probably doesn't have many friends. Maybe one good friend.
He just doesn't want to call attention to himself at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, a law clerk, aren't they like hidden away in an office too?
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
you
that's
can also
probably like
take
his
it.
dream job.
Yeah, and you can take it even a step further. Instead of being a law clerk for a popular firm or or maybe like family law or something, it's even something more secluded. Maybe something like something really
Real estate
obscure. Yeah, state law, or
Real estate
something where he's hidden away in the basement, and most of the time people just forget about him. So that could lead to a lot of potential. Yeah. So I mean, and that's a pretty good setup for a main character, Okay, so you can think about how he felt, to build his past. Is this something that happened recently, or has he always had it?
It's always
Always had it. So how do you think kids in grade school?
it's bullied.
Yeah.
Do kids in grade school look anybody in the eye?
You might
even
not.
notice.
If they can find something,
Like they're
they
Oh,
will.
yeah, that's true. Any abnormality, then it's something to be picked
Yeah.
on.
It's probably not something that he actually noticed until it was pointed out.
Pointed out,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right, because his family, his close family wouldn't do it, they would
They
just.
just say, bless his heart.
Out here in the town. You saw anything about
Yeah.
somebody if you follow it with that.
So, you can start, so we know he's in Durham, so his family is Southern, and they would say something like that.
Now, if he's smart, they might push him to try and overcome it. And he might be,
That's true. So
feel
they,
pressure to, succeed or go for a position or do something that's not in his nature he doesn't actually want to do.
do. Now, would he do it for the sake of his family, or would he maybe try to find a way out of it, or try to find a way to appease both him and his family?
He'd fail, he'd fail.
Fail on purpose?
Yeah, he'd just fail.
Yeah.
You give like a half-hearted effort.
And-
Who's the main character?
Yeah, I think.
He's not gonna fail, he's gonna find some inner strength.
He's
in
got
there.
a choke,
He's got,
but he's got a
But-
choke.
He'll choke it first.
but
He's
it
got a
could be
choke.
he's got a girl in school that he has never forgotten.
Mm-hmm,
That's true.
He might be married with 3 kids now, but he's still got her right here.
mm-hmm.
That could work. Or maybe she's recently divorced and comes back into his life.
Ooh, trouble.
Yeah. Lots of trouble.
What if he has a JD, but he works as a law clerk because of the bullying and the tall, hunchy thing and the eye closing? So that would be another reason why people at the law place wouldn't take him seriously, because you got a JD and you're back here in the tombstones or whatever they call that, the morgues,
Yeah.
So that fits in.
Yeah. These are really great.
I think a really good story for him, I mean, if he is so shy and reserved and wants to hide, you put him in a situation where he's forced to come out.
Right.
For whatever reason, like to help his family with something, and he doesn't want to do it, but he's forced to do it.
Forced to do it.
See, I want him to find something in the basement that makes him use his JD and make him come out and actually develop part of himself.
See, I don't think those things I don't get. They don't come to me. One eye closes slower than the other.
What's JD?
I'm not sure.
A
Juris Doctor.
He's an attorney.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that would be very interesting to have such a high degree, but take such a low minimal job in his field.
He's a doctor in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question that's kind of off topic about
Okay.
characters in general.
Sure.
I'm afraid that all of them are gonna end up like me. Like, I was homeschooled, so if I try to put a character into like a public high school, I'm like,
You don't know how
that would not be good for the first
Yeah.
the first
You
try.
might
But
have to go to a school.
Ooh.
Go to school, watch.
I've heard about it.
Not something you want to take on.
Interview
But
people.
I don't think that's any different than writing about any situation you haven't been in. And as a writer, that's kind of your job, is to, figure out the things that anybody would go through. I'm sure even being homeschooled, interacting with other people, meeting somebody for the first time might make you nervous. Or, just those common emotions that anybody's gonna feel, regardless of the situation, and to really focus in on those. I mean, obviously, none of us have been a law clerk, and, maybe somebody here has, but
Yeah.
in
So,
this
I mean-
situation, but.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, getting out there and having the most experience as you can. As a writer, we can draw from any part of our life as an experience to fuel our characters.
Or, you can even, in a sense, you can draw off experiences that you haven't had, things that
You've read
if you
about
wanted to go,
or
like if you
watched.
wanted to go to school, high school, or if you, wondered what it would be like to have, grown up in Europe or whatever, you look, that's some curiosity that kind of manifested itself in your mind, and I think, in a sense, all your characters probably start out as an aspect of yourself, but they develop as you do this. You kind of figure out what their motivations would be, drawn from your own rich fantasy.
And
in your
if
head.
you haven't had the experience yourself, you can always find out through research. Going to a high school, interviewing a high schooler that you know. TV, even though they do sometimes push things more to the fictional realm, you still have that basic idea of how high school should be. So, looking at books and movies as reference material, especially for popular culture, you can do that as well. So, but it's a very valid point. Having, that fear of characters turning out like you, and I think in the beginning they may, until you can find a way to draw different traits that maybe you wanted to have in yourself, or experiences that you want to experience.
Well, the nice thing about fiction is you can change it.
Exactly.
Change it. I had a male character, and I loved the story concept that I had, but the character was going nowhere until I changed it to a girl, and suddenly it took off.
That's true. You can always, the best thing about Nano, you can just write anything. Just get it on the paper and you can change it later. So you can add more details later. You can add more backstory or another, say, we could have added this quirk later in, and it would have added a whole other, changed his whole perspective.
That's the wonderful thing about Nano, is it's get it down on paper. It's to get you to write, to get you to put down 50,000 words, and then December and January for editing.
You can't change something you don't have written.
Don't
You
change
can't
it
make
in
it better.
November. Don't change
Yeah,
it in
just don't
November.
make it, don't
Go
do
back
it in
and change his
November.
name in December,
And I don't know how legal this is in terms of the whole Nano challenge, but the one thing that really helped me last year was when I got stuck in the story. When I got stuck outside the story in my own head, I just used brackets and wrote comment and just started writing about
That's
what
very
it was I
difficult.
wanted to go, but I used them in word count.
Yeah, well, no, yeah.
I don't know what
you can
I'm
do
doing here. I feel like I've gotten really stuck. Something needs to happen, but I know that I want, the next big thing to happen is this, and then you start writing in that.
Yeah.
And so you got this nice block in there that you can find later. You can fill
and you
in.
explain. Yeah, that's completely
really-
legal. I do that.
helps.
I don't do that a lot, but I do add bits like that, little notes to myself, especially when you're having trouble getting something to come out the right way, and you can describe, just as you said, describe, this is kind of what I wanted to happen here, it's not coming out right. And I found, even as I was going over last year's manuscript, I'd find a note like that, and I've been reading through all this, and I'm like, oh, I know where this
Right,
needs to go
exactly.
now, and I can jot, okay, this is what happens here instead of, those notes to myself.
I've even started writing out a sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I've gotten inspired by something that happens later in my story, and so I've written, that's what I'm working on now. I'm writing the end of my story. So, it kind of helps, it's going to help me in the beginning of the story, where I should take.
Where it should go.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's one of the best things I like about Nano is you're not set to start just with the character sheet. You don't need to start right at the top and work your way through. You jump around, find.
I have 2 of these. One in my bag,
Yeah.
one in the car. So many ideas. I'll be driving along,
Yeah.
Driving is one of my favorite times.
Yeah.
to
Right.
write.
Mine's it.
or
I
I'll
do
wake
that on
up
my
first thing
iPhone.
in the morning and start, talking into this thing.
Mhm.
And so that's, when an idea comes, I hate, boy, I gotta remember that.
I usually write it down. I keep a notebook or notes on my phone.
Yeah.
You bet.
For ideas.
You bet.
And so it's like, if you find yourself, it's the first day of Nano, and you want to write a scene from your climax at the end of the book, do it. Because it's gonna, if you don't get it out now, it's gonna distract you from trying to write the beginning. And you're just gonna stall on the beginning and not get any work done, pretty much.
Actually, I know
So.
4 different authors who say, know where your book is gonna end.
Mhm.
Know what the ending is.
That's important to know where your characters should go.
And Judy told me, she said, and I can't remember which author she said it was, but she said one author she knows, she gets to the end of the book, she always rewrites her first chapter because she knows so much more at the end than she does at the beginning.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Do it that way.
Well, I know Stephanie Myers, who wrote Twilight, said that she started with a dream
Mhm.
scene that was in the middle of the book, and she went from there to the end, and then went to the
Back.
beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And went to the middle.
I threw out 3 beginning chapters. Just threw them out, started with chapter 4.
But with Nano, you want to keep all of those, right?
Right.
The point is
Yeah.
the point is to get over yourself enough to get the 50,000 words out. So it's you don't want to write Durham 50,000
Right.
times, right? That's cheating. But
That's cheating, yes.
when you're just like trying to push yourself to get something out,
And really, if you could even, you could write those first 3 chapters and then suddenly have an idea for the ending and then go back and realize, well, those first 3 chapters don't really work. You can skip that and start over. Keep them in your word count. Start over from the beginning that you want to. And then at the end of November, you might find some jewel or chunk of gold in those first 3 chapters that you were going to cut and use it later on in your work.
And I know a lot of authors, I follow a few people on Twitter that have used those, like if you throw those early chapters away, they'll use them as short stories
Mm-hmm.
on their websites to get interest and augment the story that does come out.
That's a really good idea. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, I follow Tiffany Rice, R-E-I-S-E, and she does that a lot. She'll write little short stories of the characters like 3 years before her book happened or 6 months before her book happened. And she'll throw them on her website for free, and that kind of lets you know how she writes, so you want to buy the
And it
book.
draws interest, yes, that's perfect. It's an awesome idea. So, do we want to add more to our law clerk, or you want to talk some more about different writing, different character ideas and stuff?
Yeah, let's scrap it and go on to something else.
We can do that. We can try that. So what about an older protagonist? Like someone in their 50s? Let's try that.
We tried developing the antagonist instead of the protagonist.
We could do that. So where would we want to start with the antagonist?
We could still do the age thing.
We could start with an age. Is it?
We could still do the older age even.
We could.
There's no reason.
Let's.
Could be an evil grandma.
That'd be a lot of fun. So,
do
or
it.
the wicked stepmother type thing. So we can do. Okay, so we know they're a grandmother then.
Mhm.
So
Is this the antagonist to the law clerk? Is it the same story? Or
Worked for Agatha Christie. Mrs. Marple.
Okay.
Sure, could be his grandmother.
Not if he's 24.
Oh, that's true.
That's possible.
It is.
Yeah, it's
Well,
It is possible.
It's pushing it.
But that would be a source of shame. You know, that would be a part of his, you know, what makes him who
That's
he
true.
is.
Maybe that's why he has that tick, because young parents, maybe.
And all kinds
It could be, yeah. Okay.
Deep South.
She was 50 when she had him, her kid was
Social
50 when she had
thing.
him, she'd still be like 55.
Right.
Well, I was saying even younger, and that's why there could be a birth defect, you know,
Ah.
And they can't correct it surgically, remember that.
Not that he could afford it.
It's true, he's only doing.
Okay, so we know, well, we can always fiddle with age later once you figure out all the details. Fiddle with age. And so let's see. We know it's his grandmother. So where do we want to go with this?
So how would she be his antagonist? I
Yeah.
think that's the next big question, right?
She's
Right.
a platinum blonde. And,
High maintenance, yeah.
yeah, she's very high maintenance. Because she's, after all, she's only 50. You know, so why should she look old? So she wears a lot of, what do
She
you call
probably
this?
doesn't even want to be called Nana or
Right,
anything.
right.
Yeah.
She wants to be called by her first name, maybe.
Yeah.
And she wears those legging things.
Okay.
She dresses like one of those real
I need to come
housewives.
to you.
And he has to use his income to help support her habits.
That's right.
Oh, that could be a big source of tension.
She's probably always
Maybe-
blowing it on like plastic surgery.
Maybe that's also why, he feels that pressure to, his family wants him to do really well. She wants him to do really well, and he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So he resents her for it.
The plastic surgery thing is interesting, considering the fact that he has his own facial
that's true.
facial
Right, that he
abnormality.
can't fix.
If
That's
the mother's not in the scene for some reason or another, if she's in jail, the sane asylum, the ground, what have you, or just another state,
Maybe she was so young when she had him that she didn't live through it.
she,
We can bring her in
Disney.
later.
Big mama drug addict.
Disney storyline, or just in Vegas with some hot guy, but so she might want to be taking over as the mother and running him and not happy with some of his choices.
That's very possible, yeah. So,
And if the grandmother is being so young, and his mother is also so young, it may be like a feminine rivalry thing that drove her away from the family.
Oh, that's true.
That's very possible.
And the grandmother could be a little resentful because maybe she didn't want to take care of him, but she's kind of it.
Oh, yeah. So he owes her.
He owes her.
And then, she could feel like he owes her, which would lead to him giving her money.
It would lead to her always telling him to get his eye fixed or to do this and do that because he needs to step up to her expectations. He owes her.
Or just reminding him always of his limitations.
Yeah.
Don't shoot too high,
Mhm.
because you know.
Yeah.
So it's very possible.
And that could be his own way of rebellion is not getting his eye fixed.
And making it good anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is this. I understand this brainstorming thing with characters, but don't I have to have a story first?
No,
Well,
that's-
you build the story off of like, wow, I really like this grandmother. Who is she? What's she like? And that's how your story can develop. Just
I mean, I'm part of a movie making group here in Raleigh. We did a contest a couple weeks ago. We had to shoot a movie in 48 hours. So we were like, okay, who's our actors? We had a 24 Asian guy and a 16-year-old white girl. We were like, well, what can you guys do? She's like, well, I can skate. We're like, okay, we're doing a skating movie. And we just kind of went from there and just brainstormed like this. So you can start from anywhere.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for that.
I'd say also a lot of times it's best that you do because you don't want to find some way to bring disparate things together in a way, because otherwise you end up writing the same things that you've seen on TV or that you've read before, or
Even unintentionally,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
So starting with the characters and building a story out from them is a good way to kind of avoid that.
I mean, you do still have some decisions you have to make about the setting and stuff like that, but it gives you a good starting point.
Gives you a good starting point, and you can always see like, okay, so we know they're in Durham now, but were they always here? Did they move around a lot? That could change the setting. You know, is she looking to move again, and she wants him to go with her?
Yep. She doesn't want to get her checks in the mail. She wants.
She wants to have that control over him. She wants him to be with her. So, yeah. So let's see, what else?
Did you guys JD through a correspondence course? Correspondence.
No, that's the thing about the JD, because he had the way that he got the JD was he, went to law school at night and not around people. So when he sat for the bar, he sat for the bar. And he got one of the highest scores, but he didn't try to interview for any. He was a night school student. Nobody is gonna.
Nobody knew him.
Yeah, nobody knew him. So no, he knows his stuff, and I'm back to him finding something that the story revolves around, but nobody's gonna believe him because he's a law clerk in a not even a law clerk. He's just a clerk in a law firm.
Now, what if he found something that would lead him back to his grandmother?
What if he found something about his missing mother?
That too.
Ooh.
That
What if
again
he's
was-
still living with his grandmother?
See, that's where I was going then. He still lives with grandma. He doesn't write a check. He actually just pays the bills.
Right.
Yeah, he still lives with grandma, but has to call her whatever, Melanie.
Yeah, something Tiffany
Has to pay
Melvin.
her credit card bills, all the household bills.
And then if he starts getting involved then in a plot, in a character with challenges and people and blah blah blah, then that might, you're not coming home for dinner anymore.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that it adds more tension between their relationship.
Absolutely.
And obviously, I mean, she's a grandmother, even though she's 50, maybe part of the reason she's high maintenance is because she's scared about getting older, and she, then holds that over his head, I'm not gonna be young forever, I'm not gonna be here, I'm gonna die someday, what are you gonna
Right.
do then,
Right.
Go to Disneyland.
These are all really good ideas.
Well, maybe she gets more nefarious as he gets more independent, Like if he finds a girl that he likes or someone who likes him, and he tries to introduce her, and then, she's a little nuts or something,
But she's definitely going to be one of his shortcomings in his character.
That's what they expect you to
That's
do.
going to be,
One of his
attachment,
flaws.
still attached to grandma. It's going to be one of his flaws.
Although I think he's found kind of almost subliminal ways of competing, finding things to compete with her, like night school for the JD. It was a way to stay away from her. Maybe he doesn't
Right.
realize that's why he was doing it, but
That's a good point.
That's a
Went to
very
school
good
till he graduated.
right.
Oops.
And then, maybe that's what leads him to find this thing in the basement law firm, is he's trying to extend his hours at work, he's staying at work for long hours, digging through extra files or doing something else.
And he could just write off, oh, we just had a really bad case or something. I just have
And what if he found out that the grandma committed a crime?
Yeah,
That she
how did
covered
she
up or
have
something.
money when he was growing up? Did she always have money, or did she just now?
That's the
That's
thing.
another
Yeah.
good
How
point.
did she get money?
Did
Oh,
she do
if he were-
something,
If you were to find
break the
something
law?
that she was about to be indicted and have to do something about it.
Or that there's something in her past that doesn't have a statute of limitations other than murder. I don't know what.
She got pregnant very early. Maybe she's blackmailing the guy that
Yeah,
got
blackmail.
Who's the father?
Yeah, blackmail is
So,
always
Was
good.
it some, maybe a judge with a family
Oh.
and he didn't want a big commotion over it, and so he was just
Somebody
writing it off.
older, I mean, if she was so young, then, even a little bit older makes it rape.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it could have been a teacher too if she was that young too. So these are all really good ideas. You guys are great. But you can see where those connections, it's just one question after another that will pull.
It's much easier to do in a group though.
But that's the great thing about write-ins. Going to write-ins and you have a question where it's like, well, I need my character to do something, or they need some sort of quirk. You can talk about it in a group. There's a whole other group of writers at the write-in.
I have not experienced a write-ins before. What exactly is that?
Okay, so a write-in is basically a small group of people usually. You meet up at a coffee shop, or I think quite a few of the write-ins this year are going to be actually here in this room. There's different libraries participating in it. And you bring your laptop or a notebook to write in, and you sit down and work on your novel in a group. So it's getting together with the other nanos in the community like we did today, but you're all working on your novels together. I don't know how to explain it. It's just really inspiring to be there in a group, working together on your own work.
I went to a write-in at the North Regional off of Falls of the News. That was really quiet. I mean, I felt very, like, as I'm zipping my book, I felt really loud. But I've been to other write-ins where it's like she's talking about, where you talk a lot. I actually host one every Tuesday at the Nightdale Library at night. And it's just, it is like what you're saying, it's so great to have everybody on your laptop just typing away. And because it just makes you feel like, okay, I gotta write too. And then, you know, if you have any questions, you can ask and everybody's there to answer.
Yeah. I think I put your write-in on the calendar, so if you're out that way and during November, you can go to find that one.
And we're actually year-round. So.
Yeah, they're year-round. I just added the dates during November, but it is year-round. But yeah, write-ins are great because they do the word sprints. You have other writers you can talk and share ideas with. You get to make new friends. I made some great friends over Nano write-ins and whatnot.
We've had one girl who's been working on her book for a few months now, and she's almost to the point of self-publishing. So it really kind of helps you get over
Yeah. Focus.
There you go.
Great. It's a great focus tool, and that's why we try to schedule as many write-ins as we can during the month. I think at this point we've got 4 write-ins during the week, each week. And they're all pretty steady. I'll have one in Cary each week. There's one here each week on Saturdays. There's one in Cameron Village Library so far. And then those are just the main ones I've set up. If you guys want to set one up closer to where you are, that's fine. I think I've posted information on the forums about how to set up your own write-in. So.
While you're on that topic, last year when I was doing this, I found the word sprints to be incredibly helpful. Especially if you're the type that gets stuck with the page in front of you. Because the whole point is you got to get as many words out by the time that timer goes off. And you know, I think that's kind of what pushed me to actually be writing what I'm thinking about if I get stuck, because I wanted that word count.
And I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, but Nano has.
That's what I used.
Nano, yeah, I think it is. Nano has their own word sprints. They schedule. You have to watch their feed to figure out when they're going to be doing them, but those are also very helpful.
That's what I was
especially
doing.
If you're working from home.
I'd set mine up on my phone, and then, you know, when they said go, I wouldn't stop until I heard my phone ring, and then I'd look back and it'd say, oh, how many words did you get? You know.
Yeah.
I got 3.
Yeah. Actually, I think the write-ins here each week on Saturdays, they're going to be focusing just on word sprints. So what you do is you can come in, if you want, you can register under your genre, and people who write the most words during the word sprint write-ins, all 4 of them, in their genre win a prize. They've got a big a treasure chest for each genre full of prizes. So it's a really great incentive to do word
Especially if you're in a less common genre.
Yes. Exactly. I think they're just general, but yeah.
And that's where?
That's right here. These
Okay.
word sprint, the word sprint write-ins. I think they're on the calendar. I need to make a special thread in the forum for them still, but yeah, they will be right here in this, actually in this room, I believe. So those will be exciting. I think they'll be Saturdays from 3 to 5. So yeah, we try to keep those on the side.
Mornings are easier.
That'd be a great way to see if maybe a way to post and see if some other people want to write in the mornings. I know lots of other writers have full-time jobs or they go to school, so we try to keep things to when on like Saturdays or in the evenings. So, okay. So, how do you guys feel about creating characters now? Did this help or? Yeah.
Will you email out the character sheet?
Yes, I will put the character sheet, the article that I mentioned earlier, I'll put a link to that, so that's online. And hopefully I'll have the video up on YouTube. So, we'll see. But yeah, well thank you so much for coming out. This has been great having you guys here and talking about characters and whatnot. You guys had some really awesome ideas. I really look forward to seeing how you guys do in November. Well, so,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
whole nano time, and I'm just writing characters that still counts.
I mean, it largely, it's, I think it's up to you. I mean, you kind of choose what what counts for you.
Okay.
I had, in mine, I put in, notes of like ideas, because a lot of times when I would be writing, I would have to think about something that happens like way later. I'm like, I don't